So today we had a little questions. It's all about ADHD today, and I'm a great sufferer of whatever you want to call that. But people have asked advice on ADHD, thought processes, and how not to dwell on negative thoughts, and what happens with an ADHD brain, thought processes where intrusive worries and thoughts keep overriding the conscious. I was talking a bit about that the other day. I was talking about, you gave the analogy of the two parts of the brain. Yeah, what they were.
Okay, yeah. So I think the question has come off the back of a discussion that we had about how the brain works in relation to stress and anxiety, and that you can choose to think particular thoughts because your conscious mind can override your automatic negative thinking that your primitive mind does. So that's your fight-flight area of your brain will automatically trigger negative thoughts because it's looking out for dangers. So it's looking out for negative things in your environment or in your life so that it can protect you. Your intellectual mind, which is your upper cortex, more processes in a kind of logical, non-linear way. So it will draw a web, or it will create a more logical conversation about what you're actually talking about than the primitive mind that tends to follow patterns of what it's done before. So I think that question came off the back of that because we were looking at basically dealing with stress and anxiety, isn't it? Of how do you stop yourself overthinking or mulling over or repeating negative thoughts in your mind.
Yeah.
And we were saying that the conscious part of your brain can override that and decide what to think about, and that you can choose to think about something positive, and that you can't choose not to think negative thoughts, but you can choose to think about something positive in your life. So it could be.
Yeah, it's not the easiest.
It's not the easiest thing to do, but
No.
you can do it. So, for example, it might be that something's come up and it's really challenging for you, and that you could then talk it through with somebody else, and that could help you to problem solve that problem. So it's not necessarily that you want to just ignore all problems and put them to one side and just only focus on things that are going well, because that's not a great strategy in life.
It's not resolving things.
Yeah, it's not resolving things.
So problems,
yeah, so it's working out how to problem solve. So sometimes the problem solving could be talking it through with somebody to come to a better resolution, because sometimes something's playing on your mind because you don't know what to do. The brain is a tool for asking the question, what should I do next? That's basically what it's designed to do, is what should I do next? And what I should do next is based on all my previous experiences. So what I should do next often involves thinking through what happened before. And so it's not necessarily a negative thought to think about something negative that's happened, but you need to think about it in a way that is solution focused. So you're going towards how to solve a problem rather than staying in, oh, this is just awful, I don't like it, I hate this thing, blah, blah, blah.
It's also being a realist, isn't it? Because we've talked about positive, negative type things, and if you've obviously got stuff going on, you can't just run away from them, not disappear by you being a positive about all of life that's happening. You've got to go, I'm a realist, so then yeah, it's positive and that's a good thing, but also that's a shit thing. So you can't like be in a shit state of life and things are going on, you keep going, oh, it's all right, I'll just stay positive, even though you aren't they being beaten black and blue, or life is not giving you the simplest of things that you might need. So you want to be keeping it real, not just going, oh, I can override this negativity with positivity, because you've got to be real with it, and hence why you have little methods to... Yeah,
positivity can be super toxic, like really toxic, because you can easily sit in a circumstance that's not great. I always give the example of me swimming in that lake, don't I? And I was having this we were filming something or the other, filming a film that's coming up, and I was swimming in this lake, and it was stunning. It was the most beautiful lake. There was the light glistening on it. There was the beautiful mountains as a backdrop. There's eagles flying. There's little sheep scurrying about in the long grass, and it's this most idyllic surroundings. And I'm skinny dipping in this lake, and I'm swimming along, and it's quite it was really cold, right? But I'm going, oh, it's so tingly, it's so beautiful, it's so lovely. And I'm focusing so hard on everything that I was enjoying about that swim that I was oblivious to the fact that I was getting towards hypothermia and could have killed myself through just being positive, of looking at that experience in a positive light. And that's kind of like a metaphor for what we can do in life. We can just, we can look so hard at the positive that we're not even noticing problems that are coming up, issues that need to be dealt with, things that are doing us harm, because we're just refusing to look at them.
Then your brain might not be in a state to think about them. When you're using cold water, your brain gets so cold that it stops working properly, so you don't necessarily...
Well, no, I deliberately did that because I knew I was doing it for the film. I knew I was doing it for the film. Before I even went in the water, I'd already planned that's how I was going to do it, and already thought I'm just going to... I really love swimming, and I'd hypnotise myself, because I'm a hypnotherapist, I'd hypnotise myself into really enjoying this moment to make a beautiful moment for the film. And so that's what I did. I'd actually hypnotised myself to it. I wasn't my brain wasn't working. I'd literally done it to myself by positive thinking.
Yeah, also if you get really cold, it does sort of affect.
Well, yeah, and then it did affect my brain, because then that's what that's. So then once I'm swimming around and I've decided to go in with positive thinking, I wasn't really super aware.
Too much time in the water, and obviously it get cold. You can't sort your head out.
That's kind of a metaphor, isn't it? For what you can do. It's so easy to do that in life, to just keep going, oh no, this is going to be fine, it's going to be fine, I'm going to work it out, it's going to be fine, it's going to be fine. And actually, you need to really look at the problem head on. So toxic positivity is not at all what it's about, but it's about choosing to focus your attention onto solving problems and to looking at what's going well to help your stress levels to drop so that you get better at managing your problems. Whereas when you negative think, excuse me, toxic negativity is where you're just literally negative thinking, not problem solving, because you're getting more and more stressed out. I've got to get a drink of water. So we were sort of so the more stressed you get, the less good you become at problem solving. So you have to calm your system down by choosing to think in a more positive way, so that you're not overthinking the negative.
Well, I think also you just got to know that you're in the right place of mind to be thinking correctly. You know, like if you're hungry and starving, you haven't been home for a few days, and someone asks you a question to do something more or whatever, you might be overstressed. Or there's lots of different scenarios towards when you need to know you're thinking correctly towards the ideas, because you get angry, like things can happen, you get in a row and you say stuff you don't mean to say. Are you over the rail, and have you got rid of the energy to come back to where you were, to have sensible answers, sensible thinking?
Yeah, I'm guilty of that so much.
And even if you're like, I don't know, you've been racing or do a marathon or something, and then you go and do an exam afterwards, it's not appropriate because you're tired. Going towards the end of the day, you've been running all day and you're getting tired, and then you start to think of your next day, but you're thinking in a state of being tired, and it can give you loads of anxiety because all you're trying to do is rest, but your mind's overrunning about all the different things you've got to do when you're in a tired state. So it's important to have little times. I know in the evenings, that bit where it's tiredness, not to overthink, because I won't be able to handle it, because I'm in a place where it's the evening and it's dark and I can't do nothing about it for a start, and it's the end of the day when I've exhausted all my energy towards my day that I've just had, so I've got no capacity to start bringing on more challenges at the end of the night when I'm supposed to be sleeping. So it's nice to give yourself that time in the evening to know that you shouldn't be really thinking about all the stuff you've got to do for the next day. I mean, almost write a list if you want to do that, but don't try and...
don't want to sort of try and problem solve big problems.
Yeah, like saying after, say you're going up the road and you've been driving all the time and you're stressed out, and someone starts shouting and screaming, you get involved in their shouting and screaming because you've not got yourself grounded, you're involved in all the commotion. So it's important to know where you're at a lot of the time.
So we were going to talk about ADHD, weren't we?
it's sort of going that way, ADHD and symptoms and how to deal with negative thoughts and whatever the questions were again. Yeah, so what happens with ADHD brain thought processes where the intrusive worry and thoughts keep overriding the thing. You just answered that, really, didn't you?
Well, they wanted to do it in specific relation to ADHD, so self-diagnosis here of Matt, but almost certainly we'd say is ADHD. Just because of, well, just everything. We haven't been through the actual diagnostic process, but it just looks that way, doesn't it? So that's something that you've been managing really all your life, isn't it? Of ADHD and the symptoms of it. So the symptoms are things like not being able to focus, not being able to concentrate on specific tasks, particularly instructions from somebody else, finding it really difficult to stay still, being quite impulsive, having a high capacity for risk taking. Can you think of any other ADHD? I think that's the main. It's that kind of impulsivity, and
the mental block. If someone asks you to do stuff, or just I've been in places where you got given a piece of paper and it's got instructions on it, and then you're in a group of people and I've got to try and read the instructions and understand what they're actually saying, and I find it difficult to take instructions and actually understand what people are talking about.
Yeah, it's that sort of ability to focus and concentrate, isn't it, on things, and particularly when stress levels increase, it becomes even harder. So like if we're having an argument and our stress levels are up there and I say, what is it I just said? It's just like, oof, don't know, no idea what you just said.
Yeah, I do remember it's a mental block, so it goes in, but it's a mental block if it's asked. The same with a bit of paper if it's given to me. I know I've been on a few lectures and people go, read this and understand it, and I'll look at it and I go, I ain't got a fucking clue what it's talking about. But it's sort of like under pressure of understanding what that is, and it gives me a mental block because I get an anxiety of feeling I need to know what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, like we went to dance lessons and it's like put that foot there, put that foot there, put that hand there, put that arm there, and there's no chance, is there? But it's not because you're not clever.
No.
It's because that's how your brain in particular works in relation to instructions and that kind of focusing.
Yeah, and that's got me used to that as well. So like, I don't really go. That's why I'm self-employed a lot of the time. And I have to choose my own life and choose my own direction, because obviously I do hang gliding and other things like that, but if I'm working with someone who's into hang gliding, then that's an easier thing. But if I was trying to do something different in someone else's world that I didn't really want to do, I find it hard to just understand why I'm doing it or what's the point, sort of thing.
Yeah, well, if there's a conversation going on in the room, 9 times out of 10 you're tuned out and you don't know what that conversation is. If it's not directly with you, isn't it? You know, if me and Tia are chatting and we say, what do you think? You'd be like, I don't know, I wasn't listening, didn't hear any of it. And it's just, that's not how your brain works, kind of thing.
No, like all my sports that I do, like if I do hang gliding, that's like a highly stimulating thing. So then the stimulation of that keeps me focused. So it's highly stimulating. When I do training, like standing on one hand or trying to do various hard, difficult stuff, takes a lot of concentration. So nearly all the things that I do are stuff that hyper focuses me. But to get hyper focused, it's got to be either dangerous or like quite very demanding. It's got to be something that's very focusing for me to even bother getting into it, and a sort of a necessary subject. Sometimes it's a necessity to go and do it.
I was having a little look at some of the research around it, because a lot of the drugs that are used to treat ADHD symptoms are things that are stimulants, so there'll be increasing levels of noradrenaline in particular, but adrenaline or other. I'm not a brain scientist or anything like that. I just like having a bit of a look, and so those kind of stimulants are what's being used to treat ADHD. But if you are using natural adrenaline and noradrenaline, well, that comes through exercise, and so when you're exercising, you're getting a boost of those drugs that would be in the medication if you were taking medication, which you're not. And that's giving you the ability to focus in those moments. So when you're flying, when you're training, when you're doing those high stimulus activities, then you're able to hyper focus and really get into those subjects, aren't you?
Yeah, the same with drumming. I've been drumming ever since I was a kid, and I think because it's like a tap, tap, tap thing. It's almost like stimming. It's sort of like a thing that I go to as if it's like sitting on a seat to sit down. I actually go, and by stimming, if you like, by touching a drum, rather than me doing stuff that's totally no use to life, I try and do stimming, but in a sort of...
Well, it's movement. I'd call it movement more than stimming, because that was the other bit of research that I looked at, was that movement in general causes those kind of neurotransmitters that we're talking about as well. So movement will cause people with ADHD to be able to concentrate better, which is why a lot of time they're given like little fidget toys and stuff in class. But you can actually use movement as a subject, and that's one of the areas, because we looked at what ADHD is useful for, because it's all really personality types, in my opinion. It's you know, oh, I've got autism traits, I've got ADHD traits. Well, those diagnoses, if you like, are character traits. You're talking about character traits, and the character traits of ADHD are extremely useful. You know, you're a great risk taker. You're able to think in lots of different directions all at the same time. You know, you're able to have lots of creative ideas, because you're not just focused on the one thing that you're supposed to be focusing on. You're like, oh, what about this, and what about that, and and the thing, and I've had this idea, and then what about the... So you've got all that creativity that comes through it, and you're really, really physical. You're very, very energetic. You're very lively physically, so you're able to do incredible feats of strength, because you've harnessed that physical energy into a useful direction of your training, or like even if you're doing building or something, or helping in the, you know, lots of different things. Yeah,
that's the traits of like ADHD, is that it's highly useful to be able to do things you want to do, and if you're in a world that can accommodate you, like at school they're trying to tell you to sit down and be quiet and do stuff because you get in trouble, because you really want to move around and keep yourself active because it holds your concentration. So then you put somewhere where you're not in tune with your personality, and then get you in trouble. So you know, definitely useful as far as all the things that I've chosen to do to keep me moving. But it's funny how I've chosen the things that actually make me concentrate. So I'm desperate to concentrate. I'm desperate to, like, everyone wants to connect in life. Everyone wants to come together and be able to get on in life and make the most of everything that you can. But if you get picked on at school for ADHD and you start to get detentions of moving around, or you start to use those attributes of not being seen as any use anywhere, and they get you in trouble, and then that can sort of demotivate you and give you anxiety and worry if you're all right. Like, I know that I move around a lot, and I know that I have a lot of energy, and I know that can be exhausting for other people, so I know that I can be a bit of a problem as far as people feeling relaxed around me, or certain traits and things that picks up on. And I get anxiety wondering, you know, like, one of my mates are all right because I'm doing this or I'm doing that, or they ain't coming around today because I was too fucking busy last time, or so there's definitely lots of little things that go alongside the anxiety of ADHD. But overall, like, it's given me my own life. It's given me all the physical things that I do, and it's given me an active life because it keeps me calm. And I've enjoyed flying. I had adrenaline, and when I look through the traits of it, and I've worked out, and I say to people when they come flying with me, you're lucky if you come back alive, like, laughing, because I know that I take myself to the peak of where I'm supposed to go. And I don't know if that's useful or not, but I'm still alive. So you can have the best ride. I've had the best ride because I took it to the peaks, but I didn't really know where is the edge to the point where you don't come back alive.
So you've played with that though, haven't you? And you've had experiences that you've nearly killed yourself multiple times to realise, oh, actually, I'm not going to go quite that far anymore. I'm not going to take that quite as far. Like, you are a risk taker, there's no doubt about it. But you've got experience under your belt now as well. Yeah, later on in life, I started to, like, pick up on how to make it easier. Like, I spend a little bit of time in the evening on my own because it starts to get, I'm hyperactive and I've got to, like, calm down. And I've used exercise to stop me jittering around and being a pain, because I like stimulating myself. So, like, if I'm in an environment and I'm full of energy and I'm got nothing to do, and I can start being awkward and I can start picking on people because
I'm around them, and it's negative attention that you sort of like you're pulling some sort of stimulus out of just your environment. There's nothing to do. What I do, I start poking Tara, and then like poking her in the ribs, where she starts getting angry, and I poke her, cut her all the time. She gets even more angry, and then before you know it, she's disliking what
when
comes.
it says poking the ribs, not like playfully poking, like that's a metaphor for like being annoying deliberately.
Yeah. Yeah, you start just like messing about a bit, and obviously I've always sort of tend to be more jokey and messing around. I don't really find life that stimulating. It just seems like a joke, because everything in it's not that stimulating. I don't know, getting a normal job up the road don't seem that exciting to me. Just loads and loads of things in normal life seem quite bland, so I have to go super fast on it. That's why I've never got a motorbike. I would have killed myself by now. I nearly killed myself in a car a couple of times. Jumped off a few bridges, been a few ditches, broke a few collarbones, a few ribs, a few bits of this, bits of that, and I learned to calm down. And also physically being able is not useful if you're in the streets and you've been able all your life and you've been training and doing all these different things. You get yourself in trouble through getting in mischief and fights and being able to run a long way and all sorts of things. It's just very...
So what would your advice be, right? So you've learned from 50 years of experience how to slow down and how to sort of not take as heavy risks, is probably what you used to do. What would you say to somebody who's like younger coming through that?
You definitely have to pick up your subjects. You've got to pick up your subjects of useful stuff, because you know you've got hyperactivity and you know you're going to keep hyper focused, so you've got to try and choose something that you want to do just to keep yourself out of trouble. And using all your body, like every day needs to be, I like to use the term, I'm going to crawl to bed every day, because I need to know that my body's been used for everything that it can be used for, and be tired at the end of the day. And that stops me from jittering around or being anxious and a bit of a pain. So like using your energy every day. And well, when it comes to like keeping a bit of focus, like drumming, when you can get a reward. I found reading really hard. It's only the last couple of years I've been reading a little bit, and I never used to read a book in my life before that. But I used to find it hard to find books stimulating, because I found that other people's subjects weren't, well, I was boring, so you start to learn your own subjects. And obviously my life's changed a bit, so I was into sports and I'm into flying and I'm into teaching and learning. And obviously my career is sort of changing over the last 2 or 3 years. So I've been more interested in to be more vocabulary and things like that. But overall my energy needs to be calmed by the end of the day. I need to get rid of it. So that means that I get rewarded by being creative.
Can I say something on that? Because that's what I was just looking up. Because I thought it was, but I was just double checking. But it's not so much that you...
Yeah.
Technical issues on the phone there. So I was saying about, I was looking up about exercise. Yes, so it's not that it's using up your energy, it's that it's giving you a cocktail of chemicals that is helping your brain to function better.
Yeah, stabiliser, stimulant.
Yeah, basically. It's buffering. So when you exercise, this is what we were looking at, I was looking at, okay, so when you exercise, it's basically exercising all of your connectivity throughout your whole system. So it's exercising your neurons, it's exercising your whole nervous system, it's exercising all of the communication channels that's going on throughout your body. So that's exercising your release of chemicals into your brain, it's exercising your hormone systems, it's exercising the whole of how you're functioning, and so it's actually exercising your brain as well as and stimulating yourself to respond well to stress. So you're putting your body under stress deliberately through exercise, and then your body's learning how to manage that stress better through practice of doing that activity. So when you don't exercise, that stress response doesn't get triggered, and so your body doesn't work out, it doesn't exercise the actual stress responses. So ADHD is much, much worse when you have high cortisol levels and high stress levels. So in other words, when your primitive mind is more triggered, your stress bucket's more full, and you're more likely to be negative thinking and overthinking. So if you can manage your stress responses better, then you can manage your ADHD symptoms of not being able to focus better. So it's not just that the exercise gets rid of your energy, it's you're actually exercising your whole systems, stress responses, so that you can then respond better. So you're buffering, you're learning to buffer, you're learning to bring your levels to a more appropriate sort of levels, basically.
Yeah, basically it's putting the hormones in that gives you the understanding, like gives you the quietness to be able to concentrate and things like that. It sort of sets it all up to be able to go into normal mode because you've woke it all up. Otherwise, you haven't woke your system up. It's like a bit of this, bit of that, and a bit low on this, a bit low on that. And my mind's just not really not cognitive in the way it's picking things up or the way it's thinking. It's not on a level. It's all over the place. As soon as you start exercising, getting your lungs going, get your brain going, get your body going, your muscles going, like Tara says, it's all coming together, and that sort of stimulates my mind to see it in a sentence, as a road. You see, it gives me a road that I can see. But it's so obvious how deep that is, because if I'm not doing that, I can fluff around and get all these different things going on around, but the actual definite way the brain just kicks in, you go, oh my God, I'm actually thinking, my brain's firing up, and I can think of things to say, and I can think where I'm going and what I'm doing. But
your posts always come out. Your posts always come out when you're training. So he does the two things hand in hand: exercising, training, and doing the post, because it's then that all of your chemical cocktails coming together to make your brain work the best.
Yeah, and I've noticed that on thousands and thousands of people when they're talking, they're doing something. They're on a walk, they're on a hike, they're doing various aspects of sports or whatever, and they're doing their videos then, because they're noticing when they go on a walk that everything calms down, and it's giving them that space and that mind that's going to think correctly. And that's so important if you're starting to get anxiety and starting to get these worries, to actually get on and go and get your blood going, get your brain going, go for a walk, go and have a little run here and there, and just do various things to wake your body up, your whole system. And they say that tennis and running, you know, like playing tennis, it's got back and mind and legs, and you know, like, I don't know, break dancing's getting your legs to go somewhere, and you're windmilling at the same time, trying to get the coordination, and you're using all your energy. So it's like getting this brain to go along with your feet. And then flying, you can balance in something with your mind. You're balancing this big piece of cloth, and it's above your head, and you're balancing it, it's third eye, and you're running with your physical body to keep it all in balance, and you're tuning up with this thing above your head. So it's like it's sort of like, it gives you this laminar thinking rather than scatty as fuck, like ADHD is just all over the place. It's just like I say, it's useful for creativity, because like if you put a pinboard up where you can throw thousands of darts at a million ideas, because all over the place, but trying to get all those ideas to go into a road, what you have to do, once you popped your all ideas, you've got to go and do your training, because you've got to put all those, you've got to pick one of those ideas out. That's the hard bit, is picking all the ideas out of one idea out of those multitude of ideas. And that's where I found out that training and exercise, I've got millions of ideas. Right, I'm going to pinpoint an idea, and then I'm going to go and train with it, because that, after like 20 minutes of training, my mind starts to wake up, and I can verbalise this idea, and it actually goes into sentences and really creative, abnormal, if you like. It's not really grammarified as far as like academic you'd write, but it's got angles in the way that you say stuff, because I think ADHD and that, it's hard to learn at school because it's all over the place, and it's a low stimulating area unless you really want to enjoy doing it. So I didn't do well at school, but when I'm at home, I think, Jesus, I can work out what I want to say when I want to say it, because I'm enjoying what that subject is, and I'll bang it straight out. And then I know, because I get enthusiastic, I do my training, because I know that's going to pump my blood in my brain, and I'll poke the idea. So it's definitely really, really useful. I find it fascinating. I'm always observing myself, so I'm just watching, but I find it fascinating to get into cold water, to go and do some exercise and training, and watch my mind come into the state of thinking correctly. Otherwise, it's just like a jumble of all this sort of stuff, and I'm just wandering around in a chaotic world. And only if someone comes along, gives me an idea, or sits with me and starts to program an idea, or if I start walking and running, then I can think of how I'm going to say that. Other than that, it's just like a jumble. You know what I mean?
And it's you know, it's pretty well documented. Anxiety, depression, all of those things. One of the most helpful things you can do towards it is exercise and diet. It's pretty much if you can crack those two aspects of it, it just changes. It's so easy to think that, oh, I need to change the way I think, or it's because I had this thing that happened in the past, or it's because of something or the other. But actually, if you can crack your sleep, your diet, your exercise, that goes such a long way to feeling all right, doesn't it?
Obviously, because if you eat properly, all your minerals and everything are there, so it corrects the mind, it balances, because it's all electrical conductivity going through it, so it wires it all up. And exercise is just waking you up, so like it's giving you a focus. So it's just like a state, it's just an obvious thing. I think back in the day, you was running around hunting as well. Nowadays, we've got to go hunting, so you would have had a little tribal affair, and you'd be at home communicating with your family, and then you'd go, some of the tribe would go running and go hunting, and that's basically us jumping around doing exercises. It's just hunting a bit, really, and then thinking how to.
Yeah, you're a great hunter because of that. So I think that's why I do think things like ADHD are personality traits that just don't fit in modern society. It doesn't fit to have those traits when you're sitting in a school or you're sitting in an office. It just doesn't fit those activities.
Anyway, exercise, food. And it always comes back to, like, obviously relationships and that, to like towards anxiety, and make sure you're doing the right things. And you sort of have to keep yourself on the right roads, obviously. And the rewards of keeping yourself, like, motivation comes when you're doing stuff. So if things start to work well, you get more inclined to want to do it, because you start to see it. And that's like exercise, you start to see a bit of fitness, bit of this, bit of that, you start to get more entwined. And if you start to reading a book, you feel, oh, that's heavy, but if you start reading a book, you start to pull a few ideas out of it, and you start reading some story of someone else's life, and you go, wow, so that's pretty interesting. So like,
you've learned to relax as well, haven't you? Like, because I'm obviously Alexander technique teacher, we've done a lot around how do you actually physically relax in your body, because when you can get your nervous system turned down a little bit, so you're not into that fight flight thing, then your brain's much easier to activate. So if you can get that, actual physical relaxation organised, and your nervous system, just turned down on the volume, then everything sits much more easily and more comfortably to actually concentrate, doesn't it?
Yeah, and also just your environment. Like if you're in a place when, like, we're turning our nervous system down and we're becoming quiet, and we're exercising and we're eating the right food, the chances of you finding that around you are quite low. Like to actually find a group of people or someone who's with you, so your environment's probably highly stimulated with anxiety, the not greatest food, not much exercise. So everyone around you is planting this vibration of like a slight insecurity, a slight anxiety, and you're not getting to notice the good things in life, because the majority of society is caught in propaganda where you ain't got time to look after yourself, you ain't got time to eat right, and you ain't got time to do all these things, as far as that's said. So trying to learn about how it feels to eat nicely, or learn about how to exercise, is really hard, because your environment's not really showing you how to do that, because I think it's quite rare, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think
rare. So. Yeah. I mean, I think if I hadn't had a really serious genetic condition, I probably wouldn't have known the things that I know. If you hadn't have broke your back and done your foot and been with, if we hadn't been in a relationship, if we hadn't have been in this relationship, I don't know. It's just interesting. It is society in general does not practice what we're talking about. No, and it argues with it. Like, people hate it. People are like, oh, you're always on some fad diet. They want to put you down. Oh, why are you like, oh, you're too skinny, or you're too this, you're too that. They just can't. It does come out like that sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, they just like argue, oh, you'll be all right, eat that once in a while, that's all like every day or whatever. But after years and years, it's just going to kill you. And definitely, like, most society, I'm quite a big fella, and without leaving my old environment, which was, you know, down in Kent, where it's a Medway Towns, is a harder working class environment, to go around flying and meet some different people from different areas of life, taught me about there's lots of different ways to look at life. But when I was growing up, we'd look at cars and think we was going to rob them. We ain't going to, and then so we didn't have to. Then I'm starting to get fit and healthy for thinking I'm going to go. There's a possibility I'm going to go to a prison cell. So like, but after being a healthy person and doing running and getting on with different people, you start to learn there's lots of different ways of thinking in life, and you don't have to be involved in having a punch up because some geezer's louder than you are and shouting you down. You can walk away and go, well, I ain't nothing to do with that, he's being an idiot, rather than you being an idiot and getting involved in it. So there's definitely loads and loads of things that are attributing, but from sitting here and doing what we're doing here, I've learned myself through training that it helps me. I've learned that the food over longevity of time stops you being swelled up, so you can train hard and do lots of things for years and years and years.
It helps your brain, doesn't it?
And it helps my brain, yeah, the sensitivity, like the training.
If you were eating a whole load of processed food and if you was eating a whole load of sugar, your brain function, with or without ADHD, is just definitely going to be worse.
Yeah, and it's going to hurt all your joints and get cortisol levels up high, which causes stress levels. So it just goes on and on and on. Anyway, I think it's a bit about ADHD, isn't it? Do. Anything else to say? No. Anything important?
No, anyway. I don't think ADHD is anything really wrong with it.
No, like society, everything through life and years and years and years, but society's trying to pimp all these people because we ain't sitting down and we're not doing various things, and we're being aggravating to the core of people out there that want to sit down in a class and learn about whatever they want to learn about. But I remember 30 kids in the class. I remember I was the only one looking out the window going, all those 29 kids, like heavily in my mind, I just remember all those kids working. I'm looking out the window going, well, I'm learning my own shit. 29 people are going to learn that. And I'm learning my own stuff. Even if I'm looking out the window, I'm learning that all these kids are just looking down and I'm looking out there. So I knew that there's a place for everybody. And if you use your mind and your head properly and your physicality and go to bed tired every day and usual like exercises, getting your brain together, there's possibility for everybody out there in many, many different ideas and angles and ways. And yeah, there you go. ADHD. Boom.